I don't think I could ever say that Fort Collins has been a sleepy town since I was born in the 80s. I'm not going to say when, because old or young, indifferent. That being said, it's been a growing community my entire life, and especially since my parents moved here and the early time where Prospect was as far south as Fort Collins really went. But now it's just moving and grooving. There's so many different things that are happening. Top Golf is in discussion with Timnath, and the Foothills Mall was renovated a few years ago, went through foreclosure, and now a local developer bought it and looking at revamping it, bringing some cool opportunities and engaging the community with what they think is going to be best for Fort Collins. And who better than somebody from Northern Colorado? But that being said, this is live in Fort Collins. We come live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, talking to you guys about things that have happened, things that are happening, city council recap, developments under review, and then we focus on a neighborhood, which this week is a traditional Fort Collins neighborhood, Indian Hills, where actually my granddad bought a house and in the 60s when they moved here. Now, that being said, we are going to jump right in because it's got a full slate of information. One of the main things that is happening right now is the King Soopers is taking over which has been just kind of a blighted area for many years. And they just recently got the demolition permit. So you might have seen the Radio Shack building come down a few months ago, kind of sitting there, getting staged and prepped. But probably over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see Kmart, which has been around for a long time in Fort Collins and Northern Colorado, get torn down and make way for 123,000 square foot King Soopers, 7-pump gas station, and really revamp that parking lot, that area. And then subsequently, a few years down the road, that King Soopers and that entire area could potentially become a pretty decent sized multi-unit commercial use, where they really implement and leverage the Midtown Max Transit, try to leverage that. Something else that was discussed was the homelessness situation in Fort Collins. And I actually just talked about this in one of my recent videos that'll be coming out here in a few weeks, of the encampments that they are tearing down. This year, they've already tore down close to 200, I think right around 170, but we're on pace, if this continues, to tear down 700 homeless shelters, or homeless encampments, I should say, over this year, which is pretty significant, and we'd be pretty far over budget. We are looking to be, if we kept on this pace, up to $200,000, which our budget is not that. We never even had a budget in recent years, but because of the homelessness issue, of whether that could be the growth of Fort Collins, transients, or rent increase, cost of living, definitely something to keep an eye on. So we are kind of watching that. Colorado and came out with an article, and hopefully we can see that homeless shelter in North Fort Collins be built sooner than later. But I would say we're probably 3 to 5 years out from that being built, and providing a safe place for people that are in need. True homelessness versus transients, very big distinguishing factor there. So hopefully we can help those people in need here in Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, here in the near future. What is happening here in the next few weeks? On Saturday, the Foothills Mall is going to have an open house from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And they're going to release what they are going to be building here in Fort Collins, which they just bought this mall a couple years back, for $45 million versus the $300+ million that it was spent on it when it was developed. So pretty rockin' deal, but they're excited to definitely do some major redevelopment in that area, bring some cool uses. A lot of it's going to be additional multifamily, but there's also going to be some interior mall space. So super exciting to see what they come out with, and we'll discuss that next week. Also, the Holiday Twin is going to be opening up April 21st and 22nd. If you don't know what that is, it's our drive-in movie theater here in Fort Collins. There's 2 screens, and definitely something fun. The concession stand is awesome. It's definitely different from when I was growing up, which was this really rink-a-dink, small, kind of scary little concession building that you can go in and get some popcorn, some candy, and scoot back to your car. But now it's pretty nice. So if you haven't been to the Holiday Twin Drive-In, definitely check it out. Support local big time on that, on the northwest side of town, near where Hughes Stadium used to be. Now, I want to say a big thanks to Molly Bohannon. She is with the Coloradoan. She is now going to Forbes, which congratulations. But I read her tweets. She live tweets the city council meetings every Tuesday night. And it takes me about an hour to read those tweets and then get through kind of her links, her articles, and see all of the information that's going on at city council, because it's a lot. So starting next week, either I'm going to be watching the full city council meetings, which could be 2 to 6 hours, or I got to figure out something else as far as getting a recap of the city council meeting, which there are some releases and things of that nature. But great information that I want to bring to you guys, because the two things they talked about last night was one of the first work sessions of the land use code, and how are they going to engage the community and listen to the community on what they want, based off of the petitions that they received, and had to repeal the land development code that they had passed on the second reading. But it's super interesting because also the Colorado housing bill will know what's happening with that really as of May 9th. But from city council's point of view, they're just going to continue forward with our current land use code changes that we're looking to implement based off of what they've heard and the changes that are desired. Introduce a new ordinance or a new package, I should say, probably August or September, and hopefully have it implemented and in place by the end of this year is at least their goal. But some of the things that they talked about was, the main things that I should say, the 7 areas of concern when they did some of their initial outreach was increased menu of housing choices. So really they were specific more on ADUs. And Kelly Olson, definitely a dissenting vote on most things, but he is concerned of their projection of a 53% increase in housing supply over the coming years if the old land development code change took place. And he wants to see how this is really going to impact it, and if they're really going to change the initial proposal and package that they passed, or if they're just going to kind of go back to the drawing boards, make subtle changes, which initially, when I'm looking through these tweets, is what I see, but we'll have to wait and see how that works out. Let's go here. Yeah, good question, Ryan. When is Montava going to start? Ever? Maybe? Who knows? Supposedly this year they're going to put. I actually but I'm currently living out north, and see a lot of dirt being moved, sewer. Plumbing pipes, things of that nature that are going to be put in. But I believe this year they're getting rocking on some projects. So they've acquired the water on that. So hopefully we see some really big activity on Montava this year. Other areas of concern on the land development code: affordable housing questions, size, height, and form, process of the land development code. Like, what does that look like? Neighborhood meeting, basic basic reviews. Interaction between code and HOA. Originally in the land development code, the code was going to supersede the HOA and basically overrule it. No HOA rules. And then utilities and parking. And then finally, notification, community input, and the review procedures. These are all things that staff is going to go back, get more information on, come back. They're going to have multiple work sessions. Here are the following work sessions if you really want to get engaged with this land development code, or land use code, I should say. April 22nd, Kelly Olson, Shirley Peel are going to have a listening session. April 24th, a virtual webinar of the engagement efforts. I do have a link for these. If you'd like them, let me know and I can send them your way. May 8th, open house and ask questions at the Lincoln Center, 2 to 7 p.m. RSVP required. Again, I have a link for that. May 23rd, second work session on the land use code, streamed on FCTV. July 25th, discuss code revisions. August 22nd, work sessions and present draft code amendments. And then adoption sometime between August and September. So that is probably one of the biggest things that is going through Fort Collins this year. And I would definitely say if you're considering moving here, or if you live in Fort Collins, you should be paying attention to that. We'll try to continue to give more information on these weekly live shows to at least give you some information, because I know we kind of go through this quick, but from that point, you can kind of either reach out to us, me or my team. We can get more information for you and try to help make educated decisions. The second item that City Council discussed last night was minimum wage and how Fort Collins is going to deal with this. They're looking at cost of living for here versus Denver, the state of Colorado, what they're looking at. But right now, and also these benefit cliffs for individuals, that if they input these minimum wages, do they lose all of their benefits? And is that worth looking at? But livable wage in Colorado for an adult is $18.92 per hour, and minimum wage here in Fort Collins is $13.65. Two options presented would get Fort Collins to $20.82 or $18.74 by 2030. Again, definitely worth paying attention to. I know small business owners, this impacts, folks like myself. We don't pay minimum wage to our employees, but it could take into consideration potential future hires, but also want to make sure that we're paying a minimum wage to those that need it and those positions that require it. So something to pay attention to. Engage with the city council if you have an opinion on one side or the other. So that kind of wraps up the city council portion, but the developments under review, there was three kind of cool projects that are being proposed. The Bloom filing is submitted a mixed use commercial that would bring, let's see here, variety, car wash, fast food restaurant, auto related commercial, and childcare. The Bloom project is going to be this really big residential project off of Mulberry between I-25 and LeMay and Timberline. So paying attention to that, that's coming down the pipeline. I believe Hartford Homes is the developer there. Sunrise Ridge, this is a request to change a single family to or a duplex into two single family lots. And then finally, a lodging and food truck park off of Vine and Lamport. So we'll see if these conceptual reviews have to go through so many processes. A lot of these conceptual reviews don't necessarily go anywhere, but some of them do. So it's at least worth paying attention to. And let's see here. From there, a neighborhood meeting, the landings at LeMay, a multifamily and mixed use. Thursday, April 13th, in person, 281 North College. So if you're in or around that area and want to go and see what's going to be happening on that project, it's 337 mixed use dwelling units on 17 acres in Fort Collins near the landings at LeMay. All right, today's video neighborhood tour is one of my favorites, Indian Hills. So let's jump in and let's see this place. So actually, this is where I was talking to you guys about. My granddad and grandmother bought here in the late 60s and still own that house today. My dad grew up in this neighborhood. This was a really far south neighborhood. Around 11 houses a year turnover in this area, anywhere between really 7 to 12. Most of them go on market, some go off market. Price points really $700,000 to $1.5 million, depending on the renovation, the style, and the size of the house. Because a lot of these are ranches with either basements or no basements and decent sized lots. Most of these homes were built in the 60s, some in the 70s. This area is south of Prospects, north of Drake on the west side of LeMay. Really great location. No HOA here, but everyone takes phenomenal care of their properties. Indian Hills is definitely one of the most desirable neighborhoods in all of Fort Collins. Shorter ceilings, these houses built in the 60s, but definitely a cool area to explore if you're considering kind of midtown area schools. You'd be going to Fort Collins High School, Lesher, and just a really quick access to Spring Creek Trail and simple, quick CSU and downtown. All righty, we're coming up to the end of our 15 minutes. Talk to me, you guys. I felt like today I was a little rushed. A lot was in tonight's episode, and I want to make sure that it's valuable and bringing good information to you if you're watching. So always open to comments, but I don't want to rush too much, but want to pack as much full into this 12 to 15 minutes as possible without going over. And I've enjoyed really bringing this to you, but let me know if there's any changes that you'd like to see. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys watching. Also had a troll on this here a little bit earlier. So definitely fun to see some of those comments. So definitely hope to bring positive energy to everybody. So hopefully you have a good night, that person who's bringing these negative comments. But otherwise, we are done for tonight. Appreciate you guys watching.